Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 5th of October. Facebook has apologised after 3 of its social media platforms, including WhatsApp and Instagram, were unavailable for almost 6 hours.
Yeah, billions of users around the world were affected, and the company says the outage was caused by a technical failure. Our North America technology reporter James Clayton can explain.
The number of people that use Facebook and its spin-offs WhatsApp and Instagram is nothing short of staggering. 3.5 billion people across the world, including tens of thousands of businesses. So when something goes wrong, it goes very wrong. In a statement released early on Tuesday morning, Facebook said, "We want to make clear at this time, we believe the root cause of this outage was a faulty configuration change. We also have no evidence that user data was compromised as a result of this downtime." The outage was said to have caused mayhem in Facebook's headquarters here in Silicon Valley as technicians scrambled to work out what was going on. Facebook was losing over £100,000 a minute, and its share price fell. Mark Zuckerberg personally lost around £4 billion. Most of these kinds of outages last for around an hour. What made this so unusual was how long it took to fix. And the scale of it too. The outage wasn't localized, it was global, affecting users across the world.
You might see only
This couldn't have happened at a worse time for Facebook. Today, a whistleblower who used to work for Facebook, Frances Haugen, will tell US politicians that Facebook's own research found that Instagram was dangerous to teenagers' mental health. A bad week for the social network is getting worse by the day. James Clayton, BBC News, San Francisco.
And we'll be trying to find out a little bit more during the programme about what caused it and how they prevent it happening again. 3 minutes past 6. News here this morning, and the Home Secretary will unveil new powers today for courts in England and Wales to stop protesters travelling to demonstrations.
Priti Patel will also announce tougher sentences for obstructing motorways when she addresses the Conservative conference in Manchester.
And the Justice Secretary, Dominic Raab, will use his conference speech to say that more criminals in England and Wales will be fitted with ankle tags. Nick Eardley reports.
Any worries about the cost of living, Prime Minister?
There is a lot for Boris Johnson to be thinking about this week. How to repair the economy after the pandemic. How to stop major supply disruption ahead of Christmas. Questions over who'll be able to pay their bills over winter. But today in Manchester, senior ministers will try and shift some of the focus onto traditional Tory ground, law and order. The Home Secretary is less than pleased about scenes like this. Insulate Britain activists repeatedly blocking major roads, angering many motorists in their attempts to raise awareness of poorly insulated homes. The government has revealed plans for new court orders which would stop protesters with a history of causing disruption travelling to some protests. There are also plans to introduce tougher sentences for obstructing highways to try and stop scenes like this. But there are significant backlogs in the court system which could make speedy action tricky. That's for the entry of the new Justice Secretary, Dominic Raab. He'll say today that he wants to double the number of offenders who are tagged in England and Wales. He'll argue that'll make communities safer. But there are other significant challenges for this government. When it comes to the economy and the cost of living, there aren't always easy answers. Nick Eardley, BBC News, at the Conservative Party conference.
Dan is at the Conservative Party conference this morning. We can speak to him now. Morning, Dan. And you've got the sofa and Adam too. Marvellous.
Now we've got the full setup. Good morning to you. Yeah, welcome to Manchester, just down the road from our studios in Salford. Adam Fleming is with us, our chief political correspondent. The Prime Minister is going to be sat exactly where you are in about an hour and a half, Adam. And we asked lots of our breakfast viewers for questions for him yesterday. And there's so many topics covered by that. There is quite a lot on that Prime Ministerial radar at the moment, isn't there?
And it's interesting at this conference because none of the Prime Minister's problems are here, because the party activists still absolutely love him despite what's happening in the outside world, and any of his potential rivals haven't quite kind of crossed the threshold yet to be a problem for him internally. So all his problems and issues he's dealing with are external to this conference hall, whether it's women losing the faith in the police after the Sarah Everard case and the other women who've been murdered this year, whether it's the shortages on the supermarket shelves, which the government say aren't as bad as social media would have you suggest, and just those kind of growing pains in the economy overall as we get used to a post-COVID world and a post-Brexit world. So that's the stuff that's kind of catching up with him while he's here.
Yeah, and overwhelmingly those questions were about cost of living and people giving practical examples of how he's talking about wages improving, and they're saying we're struggling to survive at the moment and winter is coming.
Yeah, and there's going to be that moment tomorrow when he's doing his conference speech on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday, you lose track of the days
Today's
here.
Tuesday, definitely.
This weird bubble that we're in here. But also, that is the day that the £20 a week temporary increase to universal credit starts being taken away from people. Now, all the talk here from government ministers has been about a new fund of £500 million to help people who are in trouble. They go to the local authority for that. And yesterday, the Chancellor was talking about £500 million extra going into the training programmes. So the focus here for the ministers is like getting people into jobs, and they want to focus on that. But if you're losing money, if your costs are going up, then that might feel like a kind of more instant hit rather than the prospect of some retraining.
And more broadly, looking at the conference, Dominic Raab, Priti Patel and Sajid Javid are all speaking today. What's going to be the sort of main topics that they're going to go down, do you think?
It's classic Conservative stuff about law and order today. So the stuff that we've been briefed and previewed in advance is Priti Patel talking about giving the police more powers to stop those Insulate Britain protesters, creating a new kind of order that the courts could use to stop protesters travelling around the country to kind of like do a bit of protest tourism, and also just tougher penalties and more powers for the police as well.
And more broadly, what's the sort of feel of conference? How does this compare to those you've been to in the past? What are the whispers in the corridors at the moment?
The first thing to say is it is exactly like party conferences of old. Even though we're in this COVID era and we haven't done it for a couple of years, you wouldn't know that there was a potentially deadly virus in the country, because everything's totally back to normal with everyone crammed in the bars, no one is wearing face masks, and you don't get asked for your vaccine passport. But that's because it's voluntary, so maybe you don't need to be asked for it. So there's that. But also, just as a journalist, it is slightly weird because we're used to there being lots of big announcements every day. Like you would normally expect when the Chancellor's doing his speech, here's some big stuff about the economy, some big spending stuff. That's not happening here.
Okay.
It's partly because there's going to be this spending review where the government sets out all its budgets for the government departments and a budget in a couple of weeks' time, so they're waiting for that. And also the theme of the government at the moment is delivering the stuff they've already promised rather than promising new stuff. And Laura Kuenssberg was saying to me last night that apparently they've focus grouped it and really tested it, and the message the public like the most is getting on with the job.
Getting on with the job,
Which means not announcing new jobs, it's getting on with stuff that you've already announced.
Well, that will be in the background when we speak to the Prime Minister a bit later on. Adam, I know you're going to be here throughout the morning as well. And if you're just tuning in, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, will be here on the sofa speaking to us live at 7:30 this morning, and we'll be here at the Conservative Party conference throughout the morning for you as well. Sally and John, see you in a moment.
Look forward to it. Thanks very much, Dan.
The first new treatment for sickle cell disease in 20 years is going to be given to patients on the NHS in England. The condition is incurable and mainly affects people from African and Caribbean backgrounds.
The drug involved has been described as revolutionary and could cut visits to A&E by 40%. Here's our Community Affairs correspondent, Adina Campbell.
Daily medication and monthly visits to hospital have been a normal part of Sarah Jane's life ever since she was a baby.
I've always been quite a smiley child, and my mum...
She's one of 15,000 people living with sickle cell disease in the UK.
I've spent a lot of my life in hospital. Just simple things I can't do sometimes, like washing myself or, you know, brushing my teeth. I need help to do that. And I'm 27 years old, but sometimes I feel like I'm living in a 100-year-old body.
But change could be on the way. Hundreds of patients in England will now be offered a new drug called crizanlizumab over the next 3 years, which could reduce the number of trips to hospital to treat severe pain.
The moment that a new drug comes that is approved to be used, our job is to make sure that we can do a deal that makes that affordable and then get it out as quickly as possible.
Sickle cell disease is the world's most common genetic blood disorder. It mainly affects people from African and Caribbean backgrounds. there's a 1 in 4 chance you will have the disease if both parents are carriers.
The announcement of this new treatment could be life-changing, reducing the number of times a sickle cell patient needs to go to A&E by 40%.
But senior health campaigners say this should have happened a long time ago.
People have said to our staff, oh, this is a black person's disease, unlikely to affect me. But I think race has played a part in thinking, well, it's over there, it doesn't affect the majority population.
More data is needed to find out about the drug's potential long-term benefits. Medical experts will continue to collect information through clinical trials. Renewed hope for sickle cell patients and their families. Adina Campbell, BBC News.
Now, there have been more incredible scenes overnight in La Palma in the Canary Islands, where the volcano there continues to spew lava. Look at these images we can show you now.
Yeah, it's been, nearly 3 weeks now since it all started, these eruptions. At least 870 buildings have been completely destroyed. 6,000 people have been evacuated. However many times we show these pictures, it's just a staggering sight, isn't it? Amazing.
And it doesn't seem to be getting any better. 2 new vents opened up, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it does seem to be getting a little bit worse. Could go on for several more weeks, we're hearing.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.